Welcome to episode 176 of The Numbers Game. I'm Jason. I'm here with Nick and Marty. How are we, fellas?
Oh, going well, Jace. Just had a nice little holiday, just a little refresh up at Noosa, which was lovely, and flew Virgin, which is good. They're still in business, but we'll get to that a bit later. Put Penny Lane away into dog care for a few days. Not the same dog's come back. It is the same dog, but I don't know what's happened. But I saw a lot of pictures while I was away, her doing things that were very, very naughty. So I'm hoping we're not going to get puppies in a few months' time. But yeah, it was good. Good to refresh. But hey, I only went locally. I know you went away to London. I'm sure we're going to talk about this. But Nick, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm very good. I'm very good. Good to have Jace back. No holidays for me, unfortunately. I booked a work trip to Barcelona, of all places, though, recently. So I'm excited for that. So yeah, it's good that we're talking about airlines and travel. But before I ask Jace how he is, Marty, who's sending you photos of your dog in strange positions? Where was this place that you sent Penny Lane?
This is like they send out these pictures to show your dog's doing well. Right, so every day on social media, you get a picture of about 70 dogs. And all I've got one nice picture of my dog, but in the background of all these other pictures, my dog's getting humped. And I'm going, I'm not paying $60 a day for this dog to just, turn in from a pup into a woman. And I just was not, I spent half the holiday just perusing the pictures going, this is not right. But anyway.
Any commentary? Was there any commentary with the photos? So the Penny Lane's fitting in really well.
Is there someone delivering a pizza? Somebody delivered a pizza in the background?
They said she's having a good time. I said, no shit, I can see it.
There's a photo. She's on her back with a cigarette lit up. She's just living.
just absolute. We couldn't believe the behaviour. We thought we brought her up to be better than that, but obviously, not.
So is she giving you the weird looks because she's not happy? Maybe she just wants to go back, wants to know why you picked her up.
I think she's depressed. That's what's worrying me. She's running around with 40 dogs every morning, and now it's just me patting her on an armchair. It's just not the same thrill.
Anyway, Jace, how are you, mate?
Mate, I'm good. I go away for a few weeks and all hell's broken loose here. It's, dog humping and won't go back there. I'll skip past. No, I'm good. Fortunately, mate, we are talking flights or airlines and things like that today, but to give you a quick recap of the travels, obviously went to the UK. Greg and I ran the London Marathon, which was a nice little bucket list, something, pretty epic to be able to do. I think each year only 1% of people that apply actually get to run the marathon. Very, very prestigious and hard to get. 850,000 people have applied for next year's London Marathon already. So a year in advance, they're trying to sort out the numbers. You applied?
No. Is it a lucky dip thing or a time based on your times?
There's a bit of everything. So of the, let's say, 60,000 places, or, they do a little bit more than that. Of the 60,000 places, let's say, I think roughly 15,000 is ballot. So you just lucky dip for those 15,000. So for next year, they're trying to squeeze 840,000 ballot applicants into 15,000 positions. So that's the lucky dip bit. Then beyond that, you've got charity tickets. So the charity partners get provided X amount of tickets and people have to fundraise a certain amount to then get their charity entry. And then you've got, I think, there's another let's call it around another 10,000. That are like people who got a qualification time. So I think it's like 2 hours and 55 minutes, or it changes based on your age, male or female, but you got to run a pretty elite marathon time to get automatic entry through your qualification time. But yeah, the world of marathons is, that might be an ep where we bring Greg back on. He's now done nearly 1,400 days straight of running or exercise, and he was there obviously running the marathon too. So we might get into the world of marathon numbers when we have Greg back on.
How'd you go in regards to what you expected on time? You finished the race. I saw pictures.
Yeah, got the medal, so that was important. I wanted to go under 3:45. My last target was under 4 hours, and I just missed that by 2 minutes. So I thought, screw it. I'm going to do a 3:45 target. So I know that I've got to put in the training and the work to at least beat my last time. And once again, I went 2 minutes short. I did 3:47. So I think I know the trick that I've got to add an extra couple of minutes to it. I do have the Gold Coast Marathon coming up where I'll go for 3:38, which means I'll get 3:40, which is what I really want. And then Chicago later this year, 3:28, which means I really want 3:30. So I'm just about improvement, just plugging along, not a professional runner, just enjoying myself, getting out there. And, I think one of the big things one of the things I say with this and Greg as well is if you've got to enjoy the process, you've got to enjoy running. If you're going to put in the amount of work you have to put in to run a marathon, like if you don't enjoy it, you're just not going to have a good time doing it. I smiled for 42 kilometers, almost the whole 42 kilometers of the London Marathon. The Tower Bridge, London Eye, the streets are pumping. There's hundreds of thousands of people lined up. There wasn't a meter of the 42 kilometers where there wasn't a crowd on the sidelines. Like my mind was boggled by this thing of like how many people come out on the day in support. There's people outside pubs with pints cheering. There's people holding up signs. If you get your number printed on your chest, which I was silly enough not to sign up for, but Greg had Brammer written on his chest. He said there's moments where it starts to get tough and people are screaming, come on, Brammer, you can do this. And you kind of get that little bit of a lift to kind of get through it. But yeah, epic experience. Looking forward to unpacking that a bit more with the Greggy Marathon we might do in the next couple of weeks. But on the flight story though, I happened to be flying over and it was the day that Dubai had its epic 75-year flood, 1.5 years of rain in one morning. So we landed in Dubai. Airport was closed. Roads were crushed. It was chaos. And Emirates misplaced or 30,000 bags basically didn't make the journey with the people that came and went in that period through the airport. So I landed in London, checked the old AirTag on the phone, as Case and I do when we land, and hit refresh, and it said that it was still sitting in Dubai. And I went, oh. And she goes, oh, surely you were smart enough to pack your running gear that you need for 3 days or 4 days from now. We landed on the Wednesday. The marathon was the Sunday. She goes, surely you packed your shoes and all your running gear in your carry-on. I went, no, it's in the bag back in Dubai. So it was a stressful 48 hours waiting for the bag to arrive. And I got lucky. I was one of 4 bags that got released from the airport out of 1,000. And that was because of sheer determination. I rocked up and said, I'm not leaving here without my bag. I know it's here. I can see it on the bloody AirTag. It's over there in a factory. Like, let me into the warehouse. I'll get the bloody bag myself. But it's not how it works. And I'll spare the details of the story. But it's a tale of as I said, got lucky. And it was, those random things that happened like to some people. I feel like I get a few of them, but I met one of the marketing managers for New Balance on the plane on the way over, and him and I exchanged details, and his bag had the running gear for 4 of their amateur athletes in his bag. And when I went back to the airport and demanded to get my bag out, he Instagrammed me. He said, hey, no pressure, but can you ask them if they can grab my bag while they're there? And it happened that the employee that was helping me saw the bag with the big New Balance sticker on it. And he said, okay, I'll grab that bag and another one while I'm there, but I'm not doing it for anyone else. So he released 4 bags to me out of the 1,000 that were backlogged. And I ended up being the savior for a bunch of these New Balance athletes that ended up with their clothing.
So I assume that means we see you in New Balance on the next marathon.
I'm not going to lie. I might have to get this little snippet from Tommy for afterwards. But Mitch from New Balance did say he was going to hook me up with a new pair of New Balance shoes. So I will be running if he comes through with the goods.
Mitch, don't forget Jason's friends.
Mitch looked after me, sent me into New Balance in London, and I did get a bit of a kit on behalf of Mitch. He did help me out. So I've now got a New Balance t-shirt. I've got some New Balance threads. I never thought I'd be a New Balance guy. I've always been Nike, but I'm telling you now, I'm converted. New Balance have got some really cool things, and I'm not just saying this for the amateur athlete sponsorship that I'm trying to work on, influencer role, but New Balance is pretty on fire at the moment. So check it out.
Fantastic. Your power knows no boundaries, Jace. It's you're very, very influential, and you're always meeting people wherever you go around the world. I love it, and what a remarkable experience to share with the audience. I felt like I was there with you when you were talking about it. But we are talking about planes today, though, and I wanted to bring up a local story. Bring it back to local. Bonza Aviation and their collapse. They've only been up and running since January 23, so they haven't been in the game for very long. But I thought it was an interesting thing to look at from a point of view of, starting a business and some of the don'ts in regards to what to avoid when you are starting a business. Because in theory, when you read the business premise, it kind of makes sense. Like, they wanted to set up a budget regional airline, and they wanted to fly paths that weren't getting flown, just to connect more people to more regions. So you go, it's a good idea. Seems a good idea. And I like that the chief executive, Tim Jordan, one of his quotes was, "We're about connecting communities and giving Aussies the chance to fly directly to see loved ones, where before it was either too expensive or took too long." And I thought, okay, that seems like a reasonable premise, but in 14 months' time, it's all over. And there's many reasons as to why it is over, but I'll run through a couple of the things, and I'll get you boys to comment on it to see what you think about it. They had an app-only booking system. App-only booking system. So they had an exclusive reliance on their mobile app, alienating segments of the population, particularly the elderly, and limited its visibility compared to competitors on traditional booking platforms. So I thought that was big, because you couldn't even go to, how you get those aggregation Webjet apps and things like that to see what's cheap. They're not on there. They were never on there.
I was about to say that, Marty. Like, I've never seen a Bonza flight pop up in any of my searches. Like, flying to the sunny coast, going to some of these, not so much regional, but even the opportunity to fly to Queensland, Gold Coast, sunny coast, if that's where Bonza was doing most of its work. And I fly a bit, and Nick, you can probably chime in too, but I have not once seen an ad for Bonza. It doesn't pop up on Instagram. It's not on my Google, Google ads. Like, how could I have been expected to buy a ticket to fly somewhere, if I can't get to it?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I'll say this with the complete truth. The only time I've ever seen Bonza's advertising is on the side of a plane on a tarmac, when I'm either getting onto another plane. And I've seen them before and gone, Bonza, who's that? And I do remember seeing them on billboards when they first came out. But you're right. Like, I use Webjet a lot to work out what's what between Virgin and Qantas.
Same.
Yeah, Bonza are never there, because at times, particularly in the last 12 months, I've actually considered Rex, because Rex is, depending on the flight, are a lot cheaper. But I've never seen Bonza ever. But I'll also say, hang on, maybe this is us, because they only do certain routes. So they only do the country route. So maybe they are. Are they on Webjet if you search the country locations? Or
I couldn't find them on any aggregated search. Like, when I was, because I was looking obviously when I was flying, recently, and I couldn't locate them anywhere. So everything's just Virgin, Jetstar, Qantas.
Well, I guess that's how.
What did I say?
Jet set. You're a jet setter. I guess that's how they make money. So Webjet, you book through Webjet, and obviously there's they make money out of that. So if the only option for Bonza is via the app, then they can't be on those aggregated sites, because you can't book them through that site.
And if traditional, let's say traditional regional people, let's say they are a bit more elderly and they're connecting between communities. Maybe the app was a hindrance. The fact that you could only book a flight through their internal app. That's the only way you can book a flight. So pretty limiting. Pretty limiting when you're trying to get yourself out there.
Oh, hang on. There was one bit of news which is probably too little too late now. on the 27th of March 2024, so just over a month and a half ago,
Yeah.
they just launched the flybonza.com website to be able to do bookings direct from the website to stop people having to download an app. But that's a little bit too little too late. Again,
Horses
you've got
bolted.
to actually know to go to flybonza.com to book it rather than on an aggregator like Google Flights or whatever. So anyway,
so you'd have to search directly, rather than it coming up anywhere that you could sort of catch it by marketing play. So it's so again, you need to be visible. You're starting a business, you've got to be visible in all aspects where people are looking, because people aren't going to guess where to find you. So it's it's business 101 right there. The other thing was the marketing strategy. Like, what do you think about just looking at regional services? And I guess I sort of compare to, let's say, a Rex or Qantas. They have the mainstream of where the flights and where you're making money, where the mass population are actually traveling, but you then obviously have an opportunity to extend that benefit into a niche. So these guys have gone into a regional niche with no real platform of any mainstream type of service. To me, that's a little bit anti-intuitive, unless you get the absolute marketing 100% right, but bit vulnerable, I thought.
In regional areas are the ones that are like, when you shut down a bank branch, they scream about it because like they like the people to people contact in regional, the community. So if you've got an airline that you can only book through an app as well, like that doesn't make sense. And then elderly Australians, which, again, in a lot of regional places, again, I'm being stereotypical here, but you imagine an elderly customer base in a lot of regional towns that might want to then fly to see their family or their children. If you shut them out altogether, that's just pretty dangerous way to run a business.
Do you think they would have stayed out of like the main terminals and the main areas of travel just due to cost too? When you're looking at competition with Qantas and Virgin, how much it would cost to be in major terminals, it's obviously significant. So would the thought process be, maybe if we go from regional areas, maybe our costings are a little bit lower and we can run those transitions? I'm just trying to get the headspace as to where it could work.
Who was the guy? He was ex-Virgin, wasn't he? The CEO.
Yeah, he was an ex-Virgin CEO.
Tim, you've got to assume deep knowledge of the aviation industry or the commercial travel industry. You've got to assume budgets were done, strategies were done. So there had to have been a viable business model. That they've obviously just got it wrong. And I think, and this is coming in with absolutely no knowledge of how that all works, but from what I do understand from reading some books is it is pretty cutthroat in getting access to different terminals. And then you think about all the costs that are associated with that, more staff on the ground because you've got more gates. I think you either go, from what I can see on the outside in, you either go big or you go really small. And maybe the choice was to go really small, because to go really big, well, it's too hard to compete with the likes of, Virgin and Qantas. And you say Jetstar, but at the end of the day, that's owned by Qantas. So I think surely there was a business model there that worked, but maybe they just completely got it wrong. Maybe there's been some variables that have meant the model didn't work. Because if you look at the stuff that you've brought up, Marty, a competitive landscape, not to steal your thunder here, we'll talk about it, but frequent flyer programs, fleet size and operations, marketing strategy. Surely they knew what they're up against, and they had the model to work. So I'd be curious to know what actually went wrong. What actually went wrong? Where were you wrong? Because they would have built the model around these other issues, I would have thought. I don't know.
Yeah, there'd be definitely a demand in the niche, you would think. So, and it would have been budgeted accordingly, you would think. But again, high costs, fuel, expenses in general have been going up. Maybe that's, but you got to have sales. At the end of the day, you can mitigate some of that cost if you've got sales. But then I looked at their fleet size and operations. They were operating with just 4 aircraft.
Couldn't believe that.
So they had limited flexibility and scalability. Like, that's amazing. The choice of leasing a large Boeing 737, it's crazy.
I saw in the last couple of days, 300 Bonza staff have been stood down. And I don't run an airline business. So again, this unpacking of the numbers, 300 staff for 4 aircraft to fly around the country each day.
Those numbers don't stack up.
For me, it seems like the economies of scale and the numbers, and I'm sure that's what it takes. I mean, again, as I said, but the fleet size and operations there on top of that does blow my mind. I mean, Australia is a big country with a small amount of people when you compare to, Europe and the UK, for example, where I saw planes overhead every bloody day flying into the many different airports. I was near Bristol. I was near Heathrow. There was Exeter. There's airports everywhere, but there's so many people in Europe and the UK flying here, there, everywhere. There's 300 million people or more in the US that are flying to all the US airports here, there, everywhere. Australia, I can see it as a very difficult market to crack. And if you've only got 4 planes, a limited amount of people that are getting in the skies and moving around anyway, as you said, Nick, I'm sure they did crunch the numbers and go, this is a viable business. But at the same time, is this also, private capital from another country being injected into a market in Australia and then entrusted to someone else to go and spend? So maybe
just because I thought I'd have a look at the Rex fleet. So Rex have 67 planes in their fleet. So that's I know Rex has been around for quite some time, but I guess they're a competitor. They're regional and they're a competitor. Over 10 times or nearly 20 times the amount of planes that's I don't know. I actually didn't believe that stat, Marty, when you sent that through. I was like, hang on.
Yeah, me either.
What kind of airline business has only 4 planes? And I get they've got the ability to lease them, but...
Yeah, I thought about it relating even to our own business, Nick, and you go, okay, well, look, majority of mortgage broking firms have, 40 plus, lenders you deal with. Imagine coming out, we've starting a new business is only 4, right? And then you can't find us unless you go directly to our app, and you're overstaffed. You're carrying high expenses to cater for the volume and the operations. It just seems like, to me, even relating it back to our own business, it seems like an absolute death trap. So just on that level, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, as I said, reading this, it's like how was it ever going to work? Maybe there were plans. Maybe there were plans to. Obviously, we're not we're not privy to this, but maybe regional was where they were going to start, and maybe they had a plan to build it out, and at times attack those other routes once they got some traction. Not sure, but for me, it just seems madness that they thought they were going to actually operate with four planes. There had to have been a growth trajectory there that they were expecting to follow.
Well, if you are small and niche, your one advantage is quality and service delivery, right? That's your one advantage to the market. But then I read, early flight delays, cancellations, and scheduling issues tarnish Bonza's reputation, leading to customer frustration and negative social media feedback. This further eroded trust and confidence in the airline. So your one play of actually creating a great experience for the traveller because you're small is totally blown away as well. As you go, no leg to stand on there as well.
Crazy.
Like, wouldn't you think if you're going to service, let's say, I'll just mess around here, but let's say you're servicing 100 people instead of maybe 20,000 people, you've got a real opportunity to wow them, in the expansion of the brand. So to come up and have those issues, you're shooting yourself in the foot from day one. So
Yeah. Well,
red
and
flag.
now I'm seeing flip it the other way. I've been seeing comments online. Jackie Felgate's one page that always has people going crazy with their comments and stories being shared. But some people who were trapped with their Bonza flights being cancelled, Jetstar, Virgin, I think they all came out and said, if you had a Bonza flight, we will match it for free or get you as close as we can to keep you moving as a goodwill gesture to you. And so all these people with Bonza flights, Jetstar was this one particular one that came through and replaced the flight free of charge for some people who were meant to be flying on Bonza. And then that got shared on social media. Everybody's commenting going, yes, hell yeah, Jetstar, great job. Like, this is awesome. Australia, good stuff. So, you're now seeing the opposite side of reputational damage going, this is why if you do have if some kind of brand loyalty, look, again, most of us will flick between whatever the best flight at the best time at the best price we can find, but again, if you've got, frequent flyer points to use, if you've got gold, like, if you're a Qantas club member, like, so having lounge access and things like that, there's all these different things that make it, I think Australia's got to be the hardest airline market in the world to crack into. Has to be.
I think the reality is too, mate, we're creatures of habit. Like, I can relate to this because Qantas over the last 18 months, I feel, this is my experience anyway, have just seemed to be far more expensive than Virgin. So, I've drifted across to Virgin at times purely because of costs, and the cost was significant. But prior to that, I personally was happy to pay a little bit more for Qantas because I knew where to go in the terminal. Like, I didn't have to think. It was almost like autopilot. Like, just now, even going into the Virgin terminal, for me, it's a little bit different because you go in, you've got to go left, you've got to walk down to that. I can't remember what the terminal is. I think it is Terminal 4, where there's more people down there because there are more scanners. So even though Virgin flights are great, I'm finding for me the Virgin experience getting on the plane is not as seamless as Qantas. So I think we're creatures of comfort as well. So if you are going to pull people away from their existing airlines or their existing services, you have to have a pretty compelling service or reason for them to move. And then if you're then, to your point, Marty, then getting a shitty service at the end, whether it's from a late flight or whatnot, they're only going to give you a crack once, and then they'll go back to what they know. So
yeah, that's exactly right. And see, I've been flying Virgin for a fair while now, but I don't know what the Qantas experience is. So my perception is Qantas is maybe a little bit more expensive on ticket, but with Virgin, if I pay an extra $40, $50, I get Economy X, which gives me extra leg room. But that's only because I'm a part of the brand and I've been utilising it, that I know that. Qantas may well have that, and I don't have a clue, right? But it's you do get familiar. But if I was to have an experience elsewhere, it would have to supersede the experience that I'm having at a similar or better price, I guess. So it's an interesting one. I think they've failed on that. And they said another point which I found fascinating was the frequent flyer programs actually played a significant part in them not getting traction. They didn't realise how loyal people were to Virgin and Qantas based on the frequent flyer programs. But then I thought, but they're not flying those routes. So I'm going, why should that even have an impact? But it might just be a psychological preference regardless. So
there's a few things for me that didn't stack up. There's a few things that didn't stack up on that stuff that came through. That, as I said before, not to harp on it, but surely they knew a lot of these things. Just get a quick Google search on the guy that was behind the cap raise, though, and apparently he's under a bit of fire for a lot of reasons. So, maybe we'll unpack that another time. The mystery man behind 777 Partners, the strange private equity firm that owns Bonza. So
where there's smoke, there's fire.
Might have to do a part 2 because that's interesting. And then I think he's behind one of the A-League soccer clubs here as well. He's got some investment in one of those. Then Everton, I think, in the EPL. Yep. Everton in the EPL as well. So there's some interesting funds flowing around the world from this place. It'll be maybe another one to unpack.
45 million Aussie in unpaid aircraft leasing fees and damages. They're being chased for. So they're 45 million in the hole just for leasing aircraft.
You can imagine then if you've got 300 staff that have pay-as-you-go withholding, superannuation.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a trail of destruction after this all finishes up.
Surprised they even put fuel in the damn plane on that basis. But but this is the thing, how wrong you can get it in regards to starting your own business. You want a competitive advantage. You want to have as much visibility as you can get out there, and you want to deliver a quality service that people actually want. And like Nick was talking about earlier, you want to make sure it's mapped out strategically and executed. But again, you want to know the first thing in a business is, can I get traction? Does the market want what I have, and can I deliver in a way that they want more of it? And it's and just running through this, I think it was just a really good demonstration of, and poor methodology here, but it's never one thing that crashes a plane. It's usually a number of different things that fail that brings the plane down. And in this situation, Bonza has hit a lot of those. So I thought it was just a good little case study, and more to unpack on it.
Love it, Marty. Well, that's been another awesome episode of The Numbers Game. Thank you for joining us. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, depending on what you're on. You can catch our full video eps on YouTube now, and follow us on Instagram for some little snippets of gold that you may not get to see elsewhere. But until next time,
Keep flying. Game over.